Hey everyone, I wanted to come on today and share my testimony. And some of you are already familiar with it and others not so much, but I'm just going to give you a quick version anyways. So I was raised going to church as a young boy. I come from a Christian family, and I can remember when I was young feeling the presence of the Holy Spirit on a couple occasions. I remember doing activities in youth group where we would sit together and pray over important things. Um, During this time, and as I was growing a little bit older, I was wrestling with my own personal insecurities already at a young age, especially coming into teens. Was facing things like bullying from a young age and self-esteem issues from a really young age. And so there were some things that, the family just couldn't help me with or didn't understand, or I wasn't willing to receive help for. And I started to wander and look for ways to escape. And so when I was like 15, started smoking weed. I think I was like on my way to youth group once when I was 15 or 16. I guess I just got my license 16, and I bought my first bag of weed. And I think that was actually probably, ironically enough, my last day going to youth group. I started smoking weed as like something to pass time, something that I was doing even while I was responsible for, heavy equipment. And, I'm just a young guy, but starting to experiment with some of these things and looking forward to the weekend where I could hang out with some friends and we would, have sleepovers and end up going to parties and get completely trashed using things like beer bong and doing lots of shotguns and one up in each other. Everybody would have their case of beer and be kind of like first one to the bottom wins kind of kind of a game. And there's many stories that I could share of even about just getting intoxicated, but the main point is it started really early. And when I was ready to go to post secondary at in Edmonton, the party there was gonna be it was a lot bigger and a lot more opportunity to have a more intense type of party with new people. And when you're doing it enough, you're kind of trying to outdo yourself from the last time, or explore other areas and experiment with other things, other substances. And so with the insecurity and some early heartbreak, I was really reaching out a lot towards substances, alcohol, and also learning how to like pick up girls, and that became a whole other addiction in its own. And eventually I started to travel and backpack, and this is like a really great experience for anyone to go travel. I highly recommend it. But in my more immature and like youthful mind, I was there not well, I was there for a lot of things, but definitely there for more parties, more girls, more experiences. And I had almost like I had an experience where I was just constantly pushing the limits. And maybe that's part of my personality, but I was really giving her anyways. So, I met some people when I was traveling. I got introduced to Vancouver Island, and by this time I had already experimented with a few different substances. Between parties and music festivals, I had dabbled a little bit with things like mushrooms and acid and MDMA and ketamine and cocaine and lots of weed, lots of beer, lots of hard liquor. And these were some of the things that, I would do frequently to enjoy, and I would mix them up together and, almost like treat my mood based on what I was feeling by adding other substances. And um, though I can't really remember any like severe overdose, I'd never been hospitalized or anything like that. I did sometimes hear from friends about things that I couldn't remember. I'd be in a blackout state and not even behind the wheel anymore, and probably lucky to make it home alive. And I do count myself blessed and protected that I am here to stand before you today as a survivor of that lifestyle. But when you start consuming those many substances to try and find a certain high or certain escape, after a while you lose control of it completely. Well, I did anyways, and a few different times. And in the summer of 2013, I was living a life that I probably would have been really jealous about only years before, because I had a great group of friends. I was having a lot of fun. I was seeing a lot of music. I had, a job and a nice apartment and a beautiful girlfriend. And yet I would come home from work or finish up with the weekend, and I would get alone with myself when I was sober, and just feel this like empty pit, this vacuum just looking to be filled. And I can remember feeling it a few different times after I had worked for a period at a new job, maybe 3 months. I would start to feel this boredom or this emptiness, something not quite right. And I would just instead of, I didn't really have the tools, but my common urge at that point would just be to escape. So I was sitting at a moment where I was really, there's nothing to escape from. Things are pretty good in my life right now, but what is wrong? I really wanted to figure it out. So I broke up with my girlfriend, who, we were in an up and down relationship anyways. That was definitely a stressor. I had a rental in Alberta, which wasn't easy to manage from BC, so I sold that. And I quit the job, and I subletted the apartment. So those were all things that I kind of classified as things that, were meant to satisfy me and help me. But because I wasn't really feeling satisfied or helped too much, I just decided to call it quits on all of those things. I did that, and I just hopped into a flow of more parties, more music festivals, more camping. I made a lot of friends. I had a crazy amount of experiences, some of which I started to get strangely more spiritual and or even more cosmic. Things started to kind of happen that didn't really make sense, just weird synchronicities. And I can explain some of those stories another time, but things that really just defied logic and didn't really make sense, but left me searching. And so I was searching definitely for truth, searching for happiness, searching for love. And I tried out a lot of different things. And I think within all of those things, between the substances and some of the new age methods and the meditation stuff and some of the more ancient practices and studying things like the Cabal and using tarot cards or the type of divination cards. I was using all of these things as tools. And what I can say is that some of them were helpful and some of them weren't. And there were some benefits to some of them. But yet, this longing and this emptiness remained, and this search continued. This unsatisfied nature inside of me was still present. And I was invited to Hawaii by a special friend that I met. She was a woman that was my friend. She wasn't an intimate partner. She, in a lot of ways, healed my heart and taught me how to really respect a woman. And after years of only using women, I needed somebody like her to come into my life and share that really special lesson with me. It's really interesting because up until this point, I was I was finding more and more things in my life that were satisfying me in ways that I thought I needed to be satisfied. Like, I had a couple of the most beautiful girlfriends that I thought I had ever known. I had a group of friends that was tighter and more loving and supportive, like a family. And I felt super confident in myself. I felt super confident in my abilities to communicate and talk to almost anyone, to connect people. I use my intuition in really like almost magical or supernatural kind of ways. I think, I was really confident, also really arrogant, and probably really and definitely really deceived in a lot of ways. I had opened my mind and my heart and my world up to accepting the guidance of who I thought were angels or ascended beings, one of which was like maybe a Kabbalistic creature called Sand Elfin, who was allegedly the ascended Elijah, who's anchoring the Earth's energies to the center of the universe to another cosmic entity named Metatron. These are all things that you can find in ancient Jewish Kabbalistic teachings. I was so involved in this stuff, I even ended up sticking it on myself. And it's really strange how mathematical and how perfect creation is, and how many of those things can be kind of shown and explained in geometry. But what I found in like the festival culture, in the woke culture, in the psychedelic culture, is that there was a lot of these common themes and a lot of these common symbols that would almost create a bond of knowing with other individuals who subscribe to similar beliefs and similar understandings. And so marking myself with things like that at the time was more about being part of something bigger than myself. And though they were really cool and showed some really cool attributes of the universe, to me, it was, in hindsight, a distraction from what was really most truthful, most loving, and most important. And I didn't really know about that at the time because I was still searching. Even though I had all of these new understandings, the search went on. And I ended up getting invited to Hawaii by this special friend of mine. And I had all of these ideas in my mind. I had worked the harvest for my uncle and had some cash to keep me afloat for a few months. So I lived in Hawaii for 6 months in total. And I started there, I had to quiet my mind, and I had decided I was going to do a meditation retreat. However, I didn't know that the one I desired most was happening 5 minutes down the road from where we were staying, starting the following week. So when I got there, I seen this and I registered for the course. Strangely enough, before the course, I had a psychedelic experience with a local, and I seen this crazy demonic presence on him when I was under the influence of the mushrooms. And it was weird. He kept trying to lure me into the bushes and separate me from the friends that I was with. And I just got totally freaked out. And I can remember finally getting away from this guy and trying to share my paranoia with my friends. And I was just hiding in my room knowing this guy is probably so mad at me or whatever, feeling awkward with me or hating me or whatever. And, I was just thinking of the people that I loved most, or people who, would support me even if I was afraid, like my mom or my friend Dakota or whatever, right? These kind of mother type people in my life wanted my mommy when I was scared. Anyways, it was really weird. This guy did pop up later in the trip, and he definitely did want to kill me. It was really weird because he was super friendly when he wanted to make some money for the mushrooms, but it didn't last that way long. Anyway, so I get into this meditation retreat, and it was crazy. It was a vow of silence. They claimed the retreat to be non-denominational, meaning it's good for any religion or any practice or belief. And so the idea was that you sit there and you observe your breath, no eye contact with anybody else there. You're meditating from about 6 a.m. till 10 p.m., eating a very basic vegetarian diet, and you're there for 10 days. And so I did this, and as I was sitting there and doing the exercises that were taught to me, I can remember having visions, and we were kind of instructed that distractions and thoughts are going to come up, but when they do, just go back to observing your breath and where you can feel it coming out of your nostrils and where it sits on your lip as you're inhaling, and focusing on this place, and just always being focused on your breath, and always bringing the focus back to the breath and having your natural breath, and to let the thoughts and the sensations come and go, but to just keep observing your breath. So I did this, and I can't remember if it was the third or the seventh day, but I do remember euphoric calming, just completely, like filling me and covering me. I can remember looking out at the stars and remembering, wow, how amazing. I've never felt like this before. I'm never doing drugs again because you don't need it. Even my breath and my peace would offer me more beauty and majesty than any drug ever created. But I would say that the meditation retreat was the first time that I had actually ever quieted my mind enough to start observing and knowing that there was a deeper knowing, that my heart was already speaking and directing me. And so I come out of this meditation retreat very introspective and very quiet. I did go on a little trip with some friends. It didn't really seem to matter what I did or where I went. I wasn't really feeling quite myself or quite in my body. I was feeling pretty timid. Nevertheless, it's hard to have a bad time in Hawaii anyways. The weather was beautiful and the people are beautiful. But I still was on a mission, and I had a ticket booked for Guatemala. I was going to go to a thing called Cosmic Convergence, a music festival there at Lake Atitlan. And I stopped in Maui and had an interesting interaction with a new friend who recommended checking out the Nepali coast. Kalalau was the beach. And he and I had a night out, and we were looking at the computer one night and seeing these magnified snowflakes. And the next day we decided, what arm is it on? We decided, it's hard to see it in this lighting. Actually, you can't really see it at all. Anyways, I don't know if you can see it. Anyways, we took a Sharpie and drew a snowflake and burnt it in with a crystal ball on the side of the road. Pretty interesting. The tourists were smelling my burning skin and probably wondering what the heck is this guy up to. But I get off out of the airport on the new island, Kauai, and I hitchhike to the trailhead, and I stay overnight on the beach at the trailhead, and I wake up early in the morning, and I have 80 pounds of gear, way too much by the way, and I start trekking in, and it's 11-mile hike. Halfway there, I had this spark of intuition, and it's like at this point I had already, done this meditation retreat. I've done all of these psychedelics. I've tried all of these spiritual methods. I feel like I'm a pretty well-equipped spiritual individual at this point. So I actually just give myself the credit, thinking I'm such an intuitive person. But the intuition was to write a note to the next person on the trail, to call my parents and tell them I was going to be in this certain place for an extended period of time. I wasn't going to pursue with my plans to go to Guatemala. I was going to stay there. So I had this knowing that I needed to stay there for some reason. At the end of the night, it's already dark. My knees collapsed. I had way too much weight on, and it was a very arduous trek. Lots of ups and downs, and it's beautiful. It's a coastal hike. I've probably seen 20 whales that day alone. It was amazing. But I get there and I collapse, and I hear this singing in the woods, and I shouted out to this guy. I was like, "Hey!" And the light points towards me, and he comes over, And he's like, you need some help, man? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, can I carry your bag? I was like, yeah. So, anyways, this guy, his name is Taylor. He carries my bag and on the way there, I'm telling him who I am, and he leads me to a cave and says, you can crash here, you'll be safe. So, anyways, I stayed in the cave that night. And in the morning, one of his friends, her name was Zia, came to visit. And um, the guy who I'd given the note to on the way there had said if I get to the valley, I have to meet Zia. Well, she was the second person I met there, and I told her that I had heard about her. And I don't know, these two thought I was a prophet or something because I knew this secret information. So funny. But anyways, they invited me to join the rest of the crew. There was maybe 20 some semi-transient people who lived there. Beautiful, beautiful people, some real strong characters. One of the guys had actually been living back there at that time. This is now almost 10 years ago, but he had been back there for 29 years. Some people, had started a whole new life living in the valley. Some people have been returning seasonally. And, within the 5 miles of the valley had different setups and different campsites and different places. So I happened to bring a whole bunch of stuff with me, some this stuff that I would have called medicine at the time, and they invited me into their community, and we had a bit of a trade culture going on, but I got like pretty much the prime tour. I knew where all the good orange spots were and where the secret garden was, and I got the camp away from a whole bunch of people and stay out of danger. And anyways, I felt pretty embraced by this community. And it was about a week later that I was invited to a birthday party, actually for the longest member. His name was Danielson. And I had given him a gift. I'd made him a necklace, the one I started on when I first got there in the cave. And I had a small dose earlier in the morning, and everything was fine. Everything seemed to be fun and everything. Starting to socialize with these folks. But this one guy really wanted some of this medicine. And I was like, well, what do you have to trade? And he's like, well, I don't really have anything, but I have this necklace. And me, I'm pretty like generous and inclusive. So I was like, yep, sure. Necklace will do. And he's like, well, you want me to put it on you? I was like, sure. He puts it on me. And instantly I trip out. My mind, I have a friend who always says your cheese slid off the cracker. That's exactly what happened. My mind totally split. I started to hear people's thoughts and then see them and hear them speak them out loud. I started having visions. I was extremely paranoid in one moment. Somebody had a knife and was throwing it at me. It didn't happen, but I was seeing these things. And I asked the one person who I kind of trusted to come down to the river with me. I needed to be alone, but not alone because I was freaked out. He came with me, and I'm sitting on a rock, and I'm having this crazy dilemma, and I'm so filled with fear. It felt like there was a wheel on fire inside of my chest, just cooking, and I was like my jaw was rattling. I thought my teeth were gonna break. I was just having this crazy dilemma about what is real, what is natural, what is supernatural, where does God come into this, where does ego come into this? And I'm just like really freaked out. And I'm sitting on this rock in the middle of the river, and this guy all of a sudden, he's like, Spencer, there's something telling me to ask you this, but do you know God? And I was like, no. Oh, well, yeah, I mean, I know all the rules, or I'm sorry, I know all the stories. I was raised going to church, and yes, I know all the rules. And he's like, no, that's not what I meant. Do you have a relationship with him? And then I was like, no. And all of a sudden, this like presence of fear, it was like turned into a black hole. I felt sorrow, and I felt so much emptiness. And the only thing on my mind was I was actually completely conscious of how I lived my life up to that point, independent of God and independent of a relationship with Him. And I had all this sorrow, and I just started sobbing on this rock. I just said, God, I'm sorry. I don't deserve to live. I know, and I feel like I might die, and I'm so afraid. I don't know if I'm going to survive this. I don't know if I'm losing my mind. I don't know. I probably don't deserve to live, God. And you have the right to flush me down this river right now. But I'm just asking you, God, just please come into my heart. Please come into my heart and come guide me. I need you. Without you, I'll make a mess of my life. I'm living proof. Without you, I'll just keep doing it. And I know I can't do this without you. Please come into my heart. And the friend who was there, he said, Spencer, I just have something to say again. And this voice is telling me anyways to tell you to get into the water. Come on, I'll help you. So he helps me, and he holds my head under the water. And I come out, and I feel so much peace. Peace for days. Peace that goes in beyond all understanding. And I could hear every leaf flutter and every ripple in the stream. I had calmness inside of me. This couple came up, and they kind of just like came up out of the woods into this scene, and just started small chatting. And I was really not in the mind for any small talk, but they're interested in this medicine. And Buddy was with me. He's like, "Yeah, Spencer, you got some for them?" I was like, "No." And he's like, "Well, come on, man. Like, this is how you survive out here and make some money." And I was like, "No, this fear, this presence, it was with me still, but it was an intelligence that was saying, no, you don't need to be giving these people this stuff. And if you don't respect it, you might as well flush it down the water right now," which is probably what I should have done anyways in the first place. It would have been the most responsible thing. Anyways, that was my first day. The first time that I had fully submitted my life to God, that I had come to an end of myself. I knew that without Him, I was going to keep messing my life up and coming to a point of no peace, no security, of fear, not feeling fulfilled or purpose-filled or directed. And that was the very first day. I can see this testimony is already getting pretty long, so I'm going to end it here. But the rest of my journey dramatically changed because now I had a relationship with God. He lived in my heart. I wasn't giving myself the credit for being so intuitive or so spiritual or so whatever. And the void that I was trying to fill all along with all of these girls or images of girls or all of these substances or alcohol or whatever, that longing to be filled was a longing to be filled by Him, a longing to be filled by His Spirit, and to be reconciled in one with God again. So that was the very, very first day. And some of you maybe watching this knew me before all of this happened, and maybe looking in on my life now down the road, and you can see the dramatic change of what happens. It's such a dramatic change. What happens? And I come across so many skeptics. They're like, really, accepting Christ into your life could dramatically change a person's trajectory, their family lineage, that significantly? Yes, absolutely. 100%. That one decision, that one choice, which is your choice and your choice alone, can and will dramatically change the trajectory of your life. And I was completely surprised that Jesus is exactly who He says He is. That He was the one who was with me, who is the one who loved me, the one who protected me, the one that had His arms wide open for me, the one that has plans and a purpose and a design for me. you know, that's who he is. And I did not believe it until it happened to me. Did not believe it at all. And I even had to spend the next years of my life, and even now still, um, becoming more like him and realizing more and more about how much he loves me. And my appetite for things that are good and right, they also increase all the more. So I'm going to leave the testimony right there. There's a huge part 2, which I'm excited to share with you one day. But there it is, Spencer's testimony, part 1. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.